out here tapping trees, and I want to go over the most common mistakes that we see when tapping trees. So here are 5 mistakes to avoid. So number 1 is tapping in the wrong spot. So when you look at the tree, you want to look for where all the old tap holes are. If the tree has never been tapped before, you don't have to worry about that, but you're looking for old tap holes because you want to avoid tapping near them, and also any wounds on the tree because you also want to avoid tapping near any wounds. So when you tap a tree, the tree creates dark partitioned wood around the tap hole during the healing process. And if you tap into this wood, you will get reduced sap yield and poor sap quality. It can leave an off flavor to your syrup. So to avoid tapping into partitioned wood, some people do what they call pattern tapping. So they start on one hole and then the next year they'll just move to the right or to the left 2 inches and up or down. And then they continue that pattern all the way around the tree. So the first tap on your tree will be in a nice clean area with lots of room to move. And then the next tap in your pattern should be 2 inches to the right and either 6 inches up or down, because the partition wood is widest at the tap hole and then it tapers as it moves above and below the tap hole. So 6 inches up and down will help you get the most out of your tree. And when tapping, you also want to avoid seams, cracks in the woods, diseased or injured areas, and of course, any old tap holes. Sometimes near an old wound or an old tap hole, the wood may be rotten or dark. If this happens, you definitely want to make sure you look up, make sure it's a healthy tree. And if it is, you can simply drill a new hole in a different spot that seems healthy. If you put a tap into dark wood, it can affect the syrup flavor and you may not even get any sap from that hole. The shavings from a healthy tree will appear very light in color. So mistake number 2 is tapping the tree too hard or too soft. So when you tap the tree, you want to hear there's a distinct change of sound when you're tapping the tree. So when you first start tapping, you'll hear it's more like a higher pitched sound as the spout is moving into the tree. And once the spout fits perfectly, you'll hear a dull like thud at the end, and that's when you want to stop tapping the tree. Because if you keep tapping and tap too hard, you can split the tree and that will cause the tree to leak sap, and we definitely don't want that. And on the other hand, you also don't want to tap too gently because a freeze may push the spout out of the tap hole and then you will not get a good seal, which can cause a loss of sap and vacuum in your system. So you want to tap it just right. Number 3 is not having a clean tap hole. So we use implements and specialized tools on our drills so that way we get a really nice clean tap hole, because you want to hold it steady so the bit does not wobble and cause an oval shaped hole in the tree. You want to make sure you drill straight so the hole is a perfect circle, because oval holes will not make a good seal on the spout and it can leak sap down the side of the tree and allow microbes into the tap hole, which could cause the tap hole to close early. So to avoid an oval hole, you want to use a sharp bit and be very steady when you drill the hole. For us, we use tools like the Exact Tap or the Precision Tapper to get that perfect tap hole. This also allows us to set the depth of how deep we're drilling into the tree, but if you don't have specialized tools, you can use a piece of tubing or a piece of electrical tape around your drill bit, so that way you know how deep you are drilling into the tree. You want to drill about 1.5 to 2.5 inches deep. This way you'll be sure to hit the sap zone, but you'll also avoid old, deep, healed over wounds and tap holes. Mistake number 4 is not looking at the tree before you tap it. You want to make sure you get a good look at the tree because you want it to be a nice, healthy maple tree and one that's not dead, because if it's dead, It's not doing you any good. You're not getting any sap from it. It's pulling vacuum, and you're not going to have vacuum as high as you would like to see. So, mistake number 3, not looking at a tree and tapping one that is dead. When you're drilling a tree, if the drill bit penetrates the wood super easily, the tree may be rotted or hollow, and it will be obvious when you begin to tap in the spout because the tap will go in easily and you'll hear a hollow sound right from the beginning. If you think a tree is rotted, simply just tap on the bark with a hammer and listen for a hollow sound, because that can save you a lot of time and energy by not tapping that tree and skipping over it. And lastly, I like to look at all the tubing fittings and spouts while tapping trees, because I want to replace any while we're going through and tapping, because it cuts down on our work later when we turn the vacuums on. You see this? It's not attached correctly. Here we have a lateral line, but as you can see right here, this is what I'm looking for. There's little nicks in the line. Those are from squirrel bites. So typically where you find the nicks, there will be a hole in the line. So we're gonna fix it, put a connector there, and yeah, keep moving on. Here what I did, since the nick was so close to another connector, this is the old tubing right here, is I just cut it where the nick was and then put it back onto this connector. This line is pretty taut. What I would normally do if there was slack in the line is I would just cut it out and try to pull it to a connector that's already there. But since it's pretty tight, I'm just gonna latch on our tool around the bite marks right here. Cut out this piece. Grab a connector. Just squeeze it together. This is how small some of the leaks are. So you can see it was chewed, probably by a squirrel or chipmunk. So I'm going to cut this part out and just put some new line in. So if you see any damage in the lines, trees on the lines, anything like that, we'd like to clean it up and get it fixed before we actually turn on the pumps. So we like to do that before and during while we're tapping. And of course, we always continue to walk the lines and the woods after we turn on the pumps. So there are the 5 common mistakes to avoid when tapping trees. I hope you guys like this video. Please comment, subscribe, like, ask questions if you have any below, and we'll see you next time.